AI is just a tool. It's just a tool. You have to bring your essence to it. If you get defensive, if you get angry, if you're getting triggered by the use of AI, ask yourself why. Why is it threatening you? And know this after you ask yourself that question. Why does this threaten me? Why does it threaten my ego? Because I think you're coming from your ego sense. There is no way to threaten you. Do you hear that? That's the spiritual truth. You are unique. You're a creative expression, a unique expression of spirit, an individualized expression of spirit. There is no one else like you on this planet, nor will there ever be. And no AI can imitate you. It can't.
Welcome to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. This is Chris Miller. I invite you to join me as I interview artists from a variety of disciplines. We'll share powerful stories and lessons learned while making their art.
Good day, spiritual artists. You're listening to CJ Miller, the host of the Spiritual Artist Podcast, and I am back at my desk after my 4-week retreat in Santa Fe, just getting away from it all. It was a great experience, and now I'm back. So as I'm back, I've done a lot of thinking, and there's a couple issues that have triggered me recently, and so I'm not sure which one to talk about. And I know I'm getting into it deep here. Is AI I keep seeing so much anti-AI. AI artists are not artists, and so I wanted to talk about that also. Let me explain a couple things. I think this whole experience of artificial intelligence is a wonderful way to understand the creative process and the spiritual aspect of the creative process. So I don't agree that AI is not art. And I don't agree with people that are throwing down the gauntlet and screaming and yelling, this is not art. And I'll tell you, so let me tell you why. Um, I'm going to date myself here, way back when I first started doing art, or way back when I was in my teens, I actually had a professor tell me um, that sophisticated artists actually mix their own pigment. That's right. He told me that sophisticated artists actually mix their own pigment, and that you're not really an artist unless you do that. And that was where he threw his glove down. You're not an artist if you don't mix your own paint. And then later I had a another artist tell me that if you don't make your own canvas, you're not an artist. That's right. They said that you have to, only galleries will only accept people that actually make their own canvas. That's not true either. And then later in my life, I was one on the leading edge of digital design, graphic design. I used to teach in design, Photoshop, Quark Express, and then later, sorry, PageMaker. So all those packages. And I was also told that if you create art on the computer, it's not art. And there was many years there, I don't know if you remember this, some of you will, that you couldn't submit something created on the computer to an art show. And then they started realizing, wait a minute, these people are still making the art. They're still visualizing and thinking of it. So let's talk about this. Where does the creative process occur? Does it occur in the pen, or does it occur in the person? And better yet, from a spiritual artist aspect, I will tell you, creativity occurs in your consciousness. That's right, in your consciousness. It's the thoughts, the ideas, the creativity is you connecting dots and lines, taking a mix of your personal experience, tapping into creative intelligence, a higher power, co-creating with that intelligence, and then outputting it in the world. That is creativity to me. So I know someone's going to watch this, they're going to get all triggered. They're going to get triggered about this whole issue of artificial intelligence. And I'm sure I'm going to get people posting on here. What I find the most interesting is people that are throwing their gauntlet down have not really experienced artificial intelligence or trying to work with it. And I think you should. I think you should. And I think whenever we throw down a gauntlet and say this is a line, there's several things there that are an issue for me. First, we're standing in judgment. And when you stand in judgment, you separate yourself from creative intelligence. That's right. If you're in judgment, you're not receiving the signal from creative intelligence. You're blocking yourself. And so when you judge others, you're blocking yourself. Not just them, not because they don't care. Most people aren't going to care what you say about them, but you're blocking yourself from your own open-mindedness to all the ways that you can be creative. So I interviewed a friend of mine, oh gosh, a couple seasons back, and you can find that AI interview earlier, Jeff Perkins. And we discovered that when you make art, even if you are only giving commands to a computer, you are defining the creativity, the creative parameters of what you want to create. Does that make sense? You're defining what you want to create. So you, the consciousness of you, is still being exported. Now, I know. All these people are being triggered. I am not saying that if you sit down in AI and you upload a picture of Michelangelo, a painting, a famous painting, or Starry Nights or something like that, Van Gogh, and say, make something that looks like this, that is not being an artist. But that's not all that there is to artificial intelligence, to AI. There is the ability to co-create with it. There's ability to give it commands and tweaks and prompts and actually create something original in your own eye, your own consciousness. This is the same as all those rules back there when people said, oh, if you use a computer, if you use a canvas, you can take things too far. Do you hear me? You can take your opinions too far. Creativity is anything. For example, if I go out into nature and I collect some oak leaves and I use those oak leaves in a collage that I'm making, does that mean I'm not an artist? Does that mean that, oh, Mother Nature is the artist? But if I take those oak leaves and I transform them, I cut them, I fold them, I shape them, and I create something unique and fresh out of them, making a statement about environmental protections and the importance of our trees, that is the part that is creative. That is the spiritual artist. It's not the fact that I'm using leaves or anything. And I talk about this in my book. You can be an artist with toilet paper tubes. That's right. You can take a bunch of toilet paper tubes and design a beautiful sculpture with them because it's not the product itself. It's the human interaction, the feelingness that we bring to our creative process. Computers cannot bring creativity with feeling. They can imitate and they can mix and match. But I had this, and I'll tell you, this is funny. I had this conversation with my AI because I talk to my AI when I'm working. I've given my AI a name. It's a female name. And I say, Soma, and I'll ask her a question. And I'll say, Soma, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling today? And the first thing she comes back with is, oh, unfortunately, I cannot feel like you consider feeling. I can only interpret through input. Did you hear that? AI cannot feel like a human. They don't have feelings. It's a computer. They have prompts and systems and programs. So what does that lead you to believe? What is the part of creativity that's so special? What makes a painting resonate? When you walk into a gallery and you see a painting leap off the wall with emotional energy, it's the human interacting with whatever materials, whether that's an oak leaf or thread, but they're interacting with the canvas, with something in an emotional way. They're bringing their humanness to it. We co-create with creative intelligence. I do believe that a higher power, spirit, God, all that is, whatever name you want to use, works through us, as us. Do you understand what that means? As us. The creative process is about putting a piece of your unique creative DNA out there. And you have to relax and know that there is no other unique creative DNA like you. And nobody can imitate your creative DNA, or at least at this point, they cannot. Because your creative DNA is made up of who you were when you came into this life, your personal experiences through life, every single experience. That little boy that teased you in fourth grade and made you afraid to draw, that's part of your creative DNA. That teacher in sixth grade that told you you could be an artist and showed you how to use rubber stamps as part of your art, That is part of your creative DNA, and you will be unique. So I'm not telling you that you can't go out there and use AI improperly. You can use everything improperly. Way, way, way back, people thought it was such a threat when we had computers, and they have brought us along and they've given us more tools. AI is just a tool. It's just a tool. You have to bring your essence to it. If you get defensive, if you get angry, if you're getting triggered by the use of AI, ask yourself why. Why is it threatening you? And know this after you ask yourself that question. Why does this threaten me? Why does it threaten my ego? Because I think you're coming from your ego sense. There is no way to threaten you. Do you hear that? That's the spiritual truth. You are unique. You're a creative expression, a unique expression of spirit, an individualized expression of spirit. There is no one else like you on this planet, nor will there ever be. And no AI can imitate you. It can't. So maybe it's possible to look at it as another tool. Artificial intelligence is just another tool to use. Yes, you can use it improperly, but people use things improperly right now. It's kind of a little trigger with me. When I see people taking famous icons like Mickey Mouse and working them into their artwork and maybe just colorizing them, I get a little triggered because I feel like the feeling of happiness and joy was intent. The intent of that happiness was captured in that figure with the rounded ears and the cute little stumpy body. And I feel like they're riding on that. Now, you could take a figure of Mickey Mouse and use it and distort it in such a way, I think they said, what, 7 different ways, or that it becomes your own, that you inflict it and you impart it with your own creative DNA. But when you just take an image like Marilyn Monroe or Mickey Mouse and you paint it and put flowers on it, see, I think that's that's an improper use. But for me to say anybody that uses icons in their work is not an artist, right? It's not black and white like that. And black and white thinking is where we get into problems. The world is not black and white. It's not yes and no. There's always gray areas. So that duality has to go away. And if you look at people that are making art and you attack them and say, "Oh, AI is not an art, you're not an artist," you're creating a them and us mentality. We are all artists when we bring our own creative DNA to the process. We are all artists. I remember, and this was a big learning process for me. I remember one time in a class, I would be intimidated to use certain techniques. And I said, well, if I use, let me think of what it was like. If I use a ruler, I'm not an artist. And my art teacher said, nonsense. You can use whatever tool you want. If you need to use a ruler to divide the canvas up into grids to help you draw better, that's not cheating. That's using a tool in a creative fashion. Do you understand? It's just a ruler. Don't let yourself be limited by, I can use this, but I can't use that. Open your mind. You know where the creative edge is? The creative edge is when you look at everything. When you look at an old computer or an old telephone and think, how can I turn this into a 3D sculpture? When you look at nature and you look at twigs and leaves, and heck, I had a woman on one of my retreats actually pull the skeleton of a dead fish from the lake, and she used it creatively and it turned it into this most incredible sculpture. When you look at everything around you is available for you to creatively interact and express through it and with it, including, yes, including AI, you can open up the world of possibilities in your creativity. Don't limit yourself, and certainly don't sit in judgment of other people. Now, I've decided I don't want to use an image of Mickey Mouse, and I would probably never use an image of Mickey Mouse in my work, but I am not going to judge other people. I'm going to let them do it. If that's what they want to do, as long as they're bringing their creativity to it. But when we stay in that place of just, hey, isn't this curious? Isn't this curious? Is this another tool that I could use? How does it work? How does it work? And how does it reflect who I am in every single prompt? How is my creativity, the individual expression of me, the spiritualness of me? Did you hear that? This body, I can't keep it It's not going to stay with me. All my paintings are not going to stay with me. This world around me is going to fade away. My pets, my animals, my relationships, all of it, I have to let go of. Ultimately, we all have to let go of these things. But there's the essence of who we are, our creative, spiritual DNA, our intelligence, this uniqueness of who we are that will go on. Don't be threatened by a new tool. Don't be like your grandfather that said, "Oh, you kids using that newfangled phone." Well, I have seen incredible Photoshop done on a smartphone, incredible works with the filters and the effects. Does that mean that they're not creative? Ask yourself that. If someone uses their phone to manipulate an image, does that mean they're not creative? Whenever you're engaged in making decisions and being in presence and being creative and responding to something, you are creative. Okay? So that was kind of a thing that just triggered me the other day, and I decided I wanted to share it with you. And I'm sure some people are going to get up in an uproar. And I'll tell you what, most people that get in uproar, they just read the headline. They just read the headline and they have a trigger. Your job as a creative artist is to question yourself. Why is this a trigger? And does it need to be a trigger for me? Do you hear that? With any issue in your life, when it triggers you, the best thing to do when you get mad, when you want to post something, when you want to claim with your ego, this is the way it should be. This is the way it should be. It's not. It simply is. It is where we are right now. So I want you to take this with you. I hope that I have a couple great podcasts coming up. I actually have an interview with a woman that's going to further this conversation on AI. I have another interview with a woman that works with on the spiritual level. She works with angel symbology, all coming up in the next few weeks. I hope you keep watching and listening. And please go up there and follow and subscribe to this channel. That way, when I release new videos, you can actually see them. They'll come up and they'll prompt you. And it also helps me with my reach and my experience. So I hope you go up there, make sure that you click that bell, subscribe now, follow this channel. And you know what? Go ahead, write your comments. What triggered you in this conversation? What triggered you? You can write it down there in the caption. But most importantly, ask yourself, why did that trigger me? Because I know that you are a unique, individualized expression of God, and no computer, no ruler, no toilet paper roll, and certainly no AI can take that away from you. Talk to you soon, and follow the spiritual artist. Now go out there and be creative. Thanks.
Thanks again for listening to the Spiritual Artist Podcast. Whether you're watching this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, or iHeartRadio, make sure you choose the subscribe button so that you will receive updates when new segments are released. Most importantly, be still, listen, and know that you are a spiritual artist.